People always ask how I balance my family life with 400 shows a year. I'm just doing what I love with the people I love. It's my magic life.
I like Wes Iseli. I like everything about him.
All right, tonight we have a magician from the DC area. You may have seen him on Fool Us. You may have seen his award-winning show called The Good Liar. Everybody, it's Brian Curry. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you, Wes?
I'm doing good, man. So, award-winning show. It has won awards in the DC area, correct?
Yeah, it got the Milburn Christopher Award, which is I mean, that's not really a DC award, but it in DC. Okay, so I mean, it's a popularity test. The city paper puts out a best of list, and the people who get their friends to click the button win a performing artist of the year. It is like a high school election. It doesn't mean anything, but it looks really good on marketing.
Yeah.
So I won that a couple years.
I see that every year in Vegas, dude. I mean, they do it in Vegas. Don't poo-poo it. It's good. It's awesome. Yeah. But
Yeah.
Melbourne Christopher, that is fantastic. That's amazing.
It's easily the best award I've gotten. So
Wow.
yeah. And as a kid, I got some award. I mean, I was a competition kid, with magic, but it's certainly not what I'm doing now. It's a totally different style of magic.
Okay, so we know you. We have mutual friends. We know each other, but we don't know each other at all. We've never seen each other's show.
Right.
Is your mentalism comedy based? Is it like your Fool Us thing, where it was just poo-pooing the mentalism totally?
Pretty much. I don't know. Poo-pooing is the right word. I tell the audience I'm going to lie to them. I lie to them, and at the end, I tell them a bunch of stuff I lied to them about. For me, it's a whole show about magician's guilt. Like as a kid, I always loved mentalism, but it always seemed to me you had to pretend to talk to the spirits, which always felt unethical to me. And then I tried doing the psychology, the pseudopsychology, and that was fine, but it got to a point where sometimes people, like I was doing a memorized deck type of thing, and a guy came back because I talked about mnemonics briefly in the show, and the guy comes up to me. He left the show and he came back. And he's like, "Hey, I've been studying mnemonics. I just didn't know you could do it that fast." And I literally the night before read an article by the best card memory guy in the world, and I told him a beautiful tale of how it was done. And when he left, I felt like garbage. It felt horrible. I felt, I was like, I might as well be pretending to be psychic. He left dumber because of me. And I was like, do I want to spend? I don't care what other guys do. I don't care if you're listening to this, if you're a mentalist and you pretend to be real. Doesn't bother me at all. I just know that for me personally, it just didn't feel good. So I prefer just saying that it's all fake at the end, trying to pull the rug out, trying to get them to believe me, even though I've told them I'm a liar, and then let them know at the end. So
I have definitely went through phases in my magic career I remember being a teenager and grandma's necklace was I have several of them, but you borrow a ring and it ends up in the necklace pendant that's been sitting on display the whole time. Do you know this trick?
Absolutely, yeah.
But this is grandma's necklace. That's the pattern that came with it. And as soon as I said it, I felt my face turn blood red and just tingling all over me. And I'm like, I'm in front of the audience. Why would grandma have a nice display thing for her necklace that's just a pendant? It looks like it was bought at Kmart for $12. Why would she have this beautiful display for it? No, never did it live again, but you get over the magician's guilt eventually. Or you make it part of the
show.
You
make a show about it, make a whole show. And yeah, I mean, I'm that's not to say that sometimes I don't do the whole show where all the expose at the end, but so sometimes I still do it, the pseudopsychology, but I don't know. It's just a matter of what you want to do with your life. What's that?
I call him a professional liar.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's not wrong.
But it's all for fun. It's not like it's anything awful. So
it is. Yeah. That's true. Right. But there's something weird about mentalism. I mean, as a magician, which I think is what you call yourself, correct? Yeah. You go by magician. Magician has within it like the sense of being an actor. Whereas mentalist, I have people who come to my show, every show, who 100% believe, and they came because they want me to prove that they're right. And so, they don't see me as an actor playing a magician or a mentalist. They see me as the real deal. So anyway, it's a personal choice, but it doesn't, everyone can do whatever they want. I'm not angry. I know that you're really good friends with Penn. Penn would not be okay with anyone doing it. For me,
I was wondering. That's why I was wondering, and I said poo poo with all love. I mean, you were just saying I don't have real powers. This is just silly. It's just fun. Right. It's gonna. You're not playing it up, but I didn't know if you were doing that for Penn and them for being such skeptics. That's what.
No, I wasn't for them. It was from, but to say that, I mean, I was shaped by them, of course, just like all of us were. I mean, you're friends with Penn and Teller. To me, Penn and Teller are the U2 of magic. You know, when I was a kid, first with Copperfield, right? I was like I was a kid. I remember having dreams about what if I could fly, right? That was amazing. And then all of a sudden, Penn and Teller, and they had an opinion. They figured out how to like communicate through their art, through magic as an art form, to say things that were important to them. And they're the first people I knew, or that I felt like that did that. And to me, that was amazing. I thought they were the best. And so I'm sure my opinions on that all this stuff was inspired by them. But,
dude, think about it. I mean, people that don't know our time frame that coming up. Copperfield, the reason he became, for our age range, had a television special every single year that was the best magic you could imagine.
Yep.
But then Penn and Teller in our teenage years and our preteen teenage years were producing millions of cockroaches on Jay Leno's desk.
Yep.
They were stabbing a hand and blood was going everywhere. Dude, they were the bad boys of magic. They're the cool ones.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
They're the best. So if I was an agent hiring Brian to do a show for me, can I get you to do close-up magic? Can I get you to do a different kind of show? Do you?
I do. I still do magic shows. I was looking at I read your bio, so I know everything about you pretty much now. But I see you do school shows. I for most of my career, I was a school show magician.
Okay.
Not exclusively, but mostly is where I made my living for well over a decade. And all the way up until the pandemic, I was doing over 100 schools a year. That was I don't know about you, but my numbers have gone way down. I don't think as many schools want to put a bunch of sick kids in a room together the way that they used to. But so no, I will do mentalism. I do magic. I do school shows. Those are the big three, though.
We don't care. You pay us, we're there. We really.
Yeah.
So
you do I'm sorry, you said 300 shows a year on your website?
Around 400 shows a year.
400 shows a year. That's bonkers.
Yeah, well, yeah. But you know, if there's shows that are close together, you can get a solid 5 shows in a day.
Sure.
Smaller show.
Where are these, like festivals, or where do you do 5 shows?
I mean, it could just be, you know, you go from a company party to a birthday party to a family get together to something else. If they're all kind of close in the vicinity, it's easy because we got our packing and unpacking down.
Yeah.
But our winery at nighttime.
Right. But if it's like a large illusion show, the hour and a half, you know, show, that takes the day.
It's the whole day.
So
we might get a matinee and an evening, but that's it.
Yeah, if we're in the same place, we do 2 illusion shows in one day, but we can't go illusion show here and drive somewhere and do another one. But yeah, we can do several in a day, so we still get, like, you know, Christmas off. But yeah, and summer is extremely busy because you have the fairs, you have the company parties, you have the family reunions, you have all the outdoor festivals, you have all the lots of activities in the summer that want entertainment. So we do a lot during the summer.
Summer is usually average 183 shows June through August. That was the average like 5 years in a row. So I just spit that number out now, 183 during the summer.
Yeah.
But you'd have to sit down and count them. But yeah, 400.
I apparently am terrible at marketing. That's amazing. Good for you guys.
Yeah. So that's what I have a degree in. I have a degree in marketing.
Okay.
I wanted to do movie magic. Like my dad had a video store growing up. So I loved horror movies. And I didn't think I could do magic for a living, but I could do movie magic, doing art and sculpture and making these gory Penn and Teller with the blood and the roaches. That's awesome. And then Terminator came out, and I'm like, well, that's out the window. It's going to be all CGI, set behind a desk 20 hours a day. I don't want that. So I moved to magic. Now what? I don't know anybody to emulate. I don't know I can't be Penn and Teller. I can't be Copperfield right away. How do you move up that thing? I'm going to start promoting myself. Well, I can't afford somebody. I'll just do it myself. But Natalie, I was reading your bio before this. Natalie doesn't know that you guys went to the same college.
Did you go to JU?
You're a Duke dog. I didn't know that.
Yes, go Dukes.
Go
That's
Duke.
awesome.
Hey, we finally have a good football team. I only had to be graduated for, a long time.
It did good the year I graduated in 2006. They did good. I think it was that year or the year after. I'm not sure.
So I graduated in 03. I'm only a couple of years before you there, but even though my hair would suggest otherwise, but I think that was the year that we beat Tech.
Okay.
And that was the greatest. I called every friend from high school that went to Tech. It was the most wonderful afternoon. Just like, I didn't hear. How did the game go? How much did you beat? What? You mean we won? It was the best. That was such a good year. But
awesome.
yeah, go Duke Dogs. I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
All right, so she has a religion degree, and she's like, "What do I do with that? I'm going to work in a church basement. Can I come work for you?" So she's awesome.
Oh, thanks.
So what did you get a degree in?
Theater. I ended up as theater. I came in with psychology, and then I moved to business, and then that was too hard. And then I did nonverbal communications, thinking, but then I was spent all my time in the theater building, so I ended up being a theater man. I was capital T terrible at acting, and I knew that I needed to be better. Going into, I always wanted to be a professional magician, and I could do close-up magic. I've done close-up magic my whole life, but I knew that if I were going to make a living, I had to figure out how to be on stage. And so even though I sucked at it, JMU, as you know, has at least when I was there, it was like 65, 35 female to male ratio. And as a theater major, it's far less than that. So you didn't have to be a good actor to get in place, is what I'm saying. They were so desperate for male actors, that I was in a lot of plays, and I got some flight time there, which was the best.
Nice.
Did you ever do plays in college?
No, I did not.
She did plays all through high school, directed them and everything, but you never did.
No, because I was thinking, I went in as a biology major, and then I switched to nursing, and then I was like you, I switched out. I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I was trying out everything. And then I just landed on religion because I was like, well, that's interesting. Gotta get a degree at some point, so I will do that. And then I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So got a job with him.
There you go. Problem solved.
So yeah.
Well, that worked out great.
At least you're doing a little bit something with yours. So
Oh yeah,
good.
no, I wouldn't have made a living without JMU. The theater, the stuff that I learned was essential. But religion, I mean, that comes up all the time. I bet you're the best conversationalist, so you could talk about anything. You could talk about religion without offending people, maybe.
Well, I don't know. That's a hard one to talk to people about without somebody getting offended. I won't get offended, but
She was working, I was doing restaurants in Harrisonburg while you were going to college.
Yeah.
I was doing the IHOP out there. I was doing the O'Neill's Grill.
Really?
You had to have seen my name on O'Neill's Grill billboard out there. Never.
I never knew there was a performing magician. I would have gone to see you 1,000,000%.
I worked there for 15 years, and it was Wes Iseli on Kids Night, Monday nights, and it was on the billboard. I was like, yes, that's free advertisement. I love it.
He was there college night at IHOP because I was waitress at IHOP. That's how we met.
Oh,
he was awesome. College night, and he was there kids night, but I worked the college night, I think.
The college kids love close-up magic,
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
And they got like 25-cent pancakes. But
yeah, it was kind of a sucky night for tips, but whatever.
you got to meet him, so it was all worth it.
Yeah. It was for a purpose.
So let's go back to your beginning. What was the first trick you ever learned? How'd you get started? Let's do that.
I think as a young kid, I still have it in my bookcase somewhere, I read Scarnon cards, but I read it more aspirationally than I did as a actual magic book. I wasn't ready to do anything out of that book. And then I came back I lived overseas. I grew up overseas in countries where they didn't speak English. And so I came back to America as an introverted, awkward, sixth grader, middle schooler, basically. And
is that military?
Yeah, well, I've been IBM, so I've been moved every 4 years. We'd move like a military kid. So,
wow.
And so I was just really, kind of introverted, and my family friend taught me gypsy thread, and he taught it to me well. Didn't teach me, not the normal garbage trick that you learn. And I had some friends. They were having a birthday party. It was my neighbor Jonathan who lived behind me, and I showed them the trick. And they were all talking about it. How the hell do you do it? That was amazing. Blah, blah. I immediately showed them how it was done, which was a mistake. And then I went home. I was like, Mom, I got to get a book. I got to learn more of these. That was amazing. And then about 4 months later, I got my first gig at a place called Cox Farms down in Centerville, which is where I lived. and I knew someone at my school whose parents owned it, and Aaron was like, "Hey, we're gonna pay someone minimum wage to do walk around magic. Do you want to do it?" And I figured out exactly how many dollars I would make in October, and I went to Denny's. I spent all of that before I even got my first gig, and I did, I'm sure, what was terrible, terrible walk around magic for them for minimum wage. So I mean, they can't complain. But
Wow. Wow.
Good experience though.
And
Right?
how old were you scoring on cards?
when I started with what?
Scoring on cards.
I had to have been like 10. I read through it, but I didn't actually try it. I kept it for some reason because I thought it was so interesting that people could do that. I remember his story about cutting the aces and then cutting them again, and I remember just being amazed by that. But it was arms, and at the time all I knew was Copperfield,
Right.
and so it didn't occur to me that was something you could actually learn. And then about 13, 14 was when I learned that gypsy thread, and that's really when I got started.
I think I got scoring on cards when I was like 20, 21. I
Yeah.
still haven't read it. It's just, it puts me to sleep. Very dry.
Yeah, I read through it. I made through it, but I haven't read it since. So
Yeah.
some books are easier to read than others.
So who is your inspirations besides Copperfield? Do you have mentalism inspirations, people you look up to?
Everyone who does mentalism these days is derivative of Darren Brown, of course. There's a lot of guys. I mean, I grew up watching John Stetson do amazing, just the funniest shows. He's so good.
Spinato always talks about our friend Jim Spinato that we just got back up in Connecticut at the Mohegan Sun. He gets Stetson there a few times a year and just raves about him. I've never seen his act.
He's so good. He's funny. He's amazing. He's everything you want a mentalist to be. I think John is just so talented. I mean, for me, the guys that I looked up to, Denny, obviously, I'm a Denny's kid. I went up to Denny. My parents would drive. My mom would drive me up every Sunday. We'd go up. I took a lesson from this guy named Peter Galinskis, who I'm sure you've never heard of. He was a card man. He was the protege of Frank Thompson, who was a kind of like an underground card guy. And Peter would sit in the corner of the room of Denny's, the original Denny, and both Denny's, but in the corner of that smoky room, and we'd sit there and I'd work on a movie and he'd take a pen and whack my fingers like a piano teacher. Like, I could see your pinky moving. Do your double lift again. And he was very restrictive. We started with Royal Road, Expert Card Technique, and down the line, but it bothered Denny to no end because I would be like, yeah, I want to go get this John Bannon book. He goes, you cannot have that, John. You're going to finish this book, damn it. And Denny's in the background going, why the hell do I let you do this? And you're just killing me. But so yeah, he definitely he taught me how to rehearse, which is something and also I think in today's world, it's kind of refreshing not being able to get stuff. Makes you work for it. Whereas now everything is a click away. There was that sense of mystery that you had when you couldn't Google something and find it out right away.
There's a trick called Will the Cards Match? And you rip them up. You probably know the trick. You rip them up, and this group here, you do a shuffle. This group here, you do a shuffle. Yeah. But it's count these, and then you reverse count these. Yeah. And I understand a reverse count just reading it from a book. Yeah. And I literally worked on it for 8 hours. And 3 times out of 80, it worked. And that's what kept me going at it. But yeah. I wasn't understanding reverse count. I don't want to reveal the secret to everybody, but it totally makes sense why I didn't get it. But I'll never forget it. Where if I was just taught that on a YouTube channel, it would just be another trick that went in one ear and out the other. But I still, to this day, will perform that. At the end of the night, I'm bottom barrel, and some kids follow me around. All right, let's rip up some cards, dude. Let's do this. Yeah. So I'll never forget it. You got to work for it, man.
Yeah, and everything I care about, it was hard. Parenting, I mean, having kids, oh my God, hardest thing in the world. But that's, and I think magic is true. It's the same thing. And I feel bad for the people who get into it now and can just learn everything. It's too easy to get frustrated on what you're working on and move on to the next thing rather than just having to plow through it. But
well, I think it's playing guitar, playing an instrument, doing anything. You have all that music right there. Okay, go. Well, how do you play a G chord? Well, here's 9,000 videos on how to do that. Well, whose video do you watch? Whose video do you follow? What 13-year-old do you want to teach you holding the chord kind of wrong?
Right.
Same magic. It's the same. Yeah. Yeah.
I learned a really cool thing from Bob Sheets. Bob Sheets, you were asking who my heroes were. Bob Sheets is one of those guys. There are very few people I've learned more from than Bob. Do you know Bob Sheets?
I know Bob, but I don't know if Bob knows me. We've met several
Okay.
times, but Bob's so funny. He's just
He's wonderful. But what he said is when you learn something, I mean, you have to learn it first, but then 10 times every morning when you wake up, 10 times before you go to bed. Because you want to pick up, let's say it's a card trick, you want to pick up the deck cold. Because when you're performing, you don't get to go practice, practice, practice. Here, pick a card. And you can learn most, I'm not going to say every, because there's certain moves that take longer than that, but you can learn most things in a week, 10 times in the morning, 10 times at night, if you just plow through it. And that to me, I try to get my kids to do that my daughter wanted to learn to play Happy Birthday on the guitar. So within a week she had it. So I think it's a cool lesson and is a great way to rehearse.
Well, there's something that they said like 10 minutes a day is all you need, and you'll be in the top 1% within a month. If you just spend 10 minutes a day doing something, you'll be in the top 1% of everyone doing that thing. But there's so many things to choose from. I want to juggle. I want to do magic. I want to do this. I want to work out. I want to do that. But you just spend 10 minutes a day doing something, you'll be in the top 10% of the world in that subject. Yeah, something like that. So, yeah. Anyway.
So what do you do? Mostly families? Do you do mostly adults? What is your audience? Everybody.
Every week is a different thing. Yeah. I mean,
but it's a family friendly show. So we say, little kids to grandmas and grandpas will enjoy it, so we like the range.
We never know what's coming up next.
Right.
And with me, it's a mental thing, and it's probably got a name for it. But if she tells me we have 17 shows this week, I go into a shell. I get tired. I try to save energy. I don't know why. But it just says, hey, we're going to Northern Virginia tomorrow morning. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, after this show, we have to go to another one. Okay. Because and then we got to go to another one. I'm going to do it.
So she's your handler. That's great.
It's overwhelmed, I guess.
Yeah, it just wears me out. It wears me out. Mm-hmm. But we love the theaters. Theaters are our favorite.
Yes.
But the idea of working the same theater all the time, I don't want to be behind that computer 80 hours a week. The same theater all the time, I think would drive me crazy. Yeah, at least we give it a shot.
Yeah, I think it would be a blessing because it might be the same theater, maybe a different audience.
Right.
It would be a different show.
Yeah.
Even if you do the same thing, it's a different show because you have different people and different reactions.
But I love being on the road and seeing the world and traveling and every day being an adventure.
Yeah.
That's what's so cool about this as well. So
yeah,
both worlds.
Before the big pandemic, I did some cruise work with Rich Block has a thing for Magic Castle at sea, and I'm sorry, they changed the name of it, Crystal Magic at sea, whatever it is, something at sea on Crystal Cruise Line. So we got to travel. We went to all 7 continents, and it was the best. It was wonderful. I'm so glad we did that before we had kids.
Wow,
do everything because we couldn't do it now. It'd be too hard.
Yeah.
My show in DC, now you were saying you like the travel thing. I like the fact that when they tell me what room I'm in, I know exactly how many cords I need to bring for the extension cords, and there's no schmoozing necessary. No, I don't even see anybody. Like as I walk by the guy, I go, hey, can you refresh the drinks at this time? Yeah, sure. And then that's it. And the fact that it's just become the load in and load out is so much easier than it would be at a place where I don't know. Because you go somewhere and you're like, oh, there's no lights here, or the sound is terrible, or none of these power cords work, so we need to run a line down to the kitchen. So I kind of like the stability of not having to think of that. But
nice, I do see that. I see it. But I'm enjoying the ride. I don't care if we end up doing a theater show somewhere and get locked in. I'm just gonna enjoy the ride.
Sure.
Like. Just enjoy it, dude.
Absolutely.
So how many theaters did you call on before getting the okay for this one?
So by theater, I'm working in hotels. I'm four-walling it. So I've been to, this is my second public show. I also have a show that I wrote called The Magic Duel, which I did with Mark Phillips for about 5 years, and it did really well. So with that show, we had 2 different venues. One was like a row house near Adams Morgan in DC that had an event space that was never booked. And so we did that for a while. It was a very small space, but it went really well. And then we moved on to the Mayflower, which is a big fancy hotel downtown DC. And then I ended up selling that show to Mark and doing my show at the Capitol Hilton, which is across the street. It's a block away from the White House, which is really nice. It's good, good location. And I also perform at the Hotel Washington. I went to a handful of venues. I didn't need as many as you'd think. What we've done, what we did with the Mayflower and with Capitol Hilton at least, and the Hotel Washington is I've targeted places that have multiple ballrooms. And so, because the problem is if it's a small venue and they book you at a discounted price, they'll be very angry when they lose money because someone else calls. However, with me, I tell them I'll go to any ballroom you've got. I just need to know the day before so I know which lights to bring. You tell me which, so if somebody wants ballroom A, good. Sell them ballroom A, send me to B, C, or D. I don't want to lose them any money. And also for that reason, I don't get the room more than about 3 or 4 months in advance. So I can't, which is a shame. I would love to say, here's my summer schedule, but that way they can still book. So sometimes people come in and book the whole hotel and they make a small fortune. And I don't have a room, so I don't get to do my show that weekend or at that hotel at least.
I'm trying to wrap my head around selling tickets if you don't know ahead of time.
I know 3 months ahead of time.
3 months. Okay.
Yeah. So that's, how most people don't buy tickets. Unless you're famous, unless you're Penn and Teller. I don't think people usually buy tickets
Right.
At least they don't for me.
Yeah. No, that's great. 3 months is fine. I thought it was I thought it was closer than that. Yeah. No, that's great.
It's going really well. It's a grind, Yeah. I wish I had you to do that work grind, all that work for me. But it's a lot of work, and it's not as financially rewarding as corporate gigs, but is by far my favorite thing to do.
That matters.
What's that?
That's what matters, that you're enjoying it.
I think so. It's my first show that I did with the Magic Duel. It was supremely political. Right. And at the time I was into political comedy. I loved all these TV shows that were snarky comedy, political stuff. And I knew I could never do that at a corporate gig. I just couldn't. And I wouldn't, because they're not paying for my opinion. Unless you're Penn and Teller famous, people don't really care what you think. But at the time, I just wanted to see if I could do it. And so we put together the show. And it turns out in DC, having an opinion is better than not having an opinion. And when you have your own theater show, they're coming to see what you want to say. You can say whatever the hell you want. You could talk about religion if you wanted to, or politics, or anything, truthfully, because they came to see what you have to say, which is really neat. Which I wouldn't do a corporate gig,
Yeah.
No, I would be scared to death. I don't want to say my political beliefs. I don't want to say my religion beliefs in a theater show if they're buying tickets. I'm just scared. I don't want to offend anyone. And as an entertainer, you don't want to offend anyone, but also you're not taking that risk. I'm not taking that risk. There's no reward.
But we've always said, they didn't come here to hear our opinion. They came here to get out of their lives for 45 minutes, hour and a half, however long the show is, to forget about their issues, forget about whatever, and just be entertained. So that's what we do. But we're not in DC either.
But if you're doing your own show, it would be fun to really get out. I've gotten, here's me being wacky.
Oh, jeez.
Time travel, or going down YouTube rabbit holes and just going to another, just being, but that's not going to offend anyone,
Right.
Yeah,
it's fine. Yeah, and if politics or religion, I don't talk about religion, for example. I wouldn't touch that with a 5-foot pole. But if it's not your thing, then you shouldn't do it. That's the whole thing. It's whatever matters to you. But I always look at Penn and Teller. Penn and Teller are very outspoken, and they irritate a lot of people. Bob Fitch worked with this guy named Ed Bordeaux, and I hope I'm not misquoting him here. I think the expression was, love me or hate me, just don't call me cute. And I've heard more recently, I was reading Harrison Greenbaum's book, where he talks about, and he said something very similar. It's, be caviar. Not everyone loves caviar, but the people who do love caviar, they love caviar. They'll go across the city to get they'll pay extra to get caviar. No, not caviar, sushi. I'm sorry, be sushi is what he said, not caviar. So people who love sushi will go to great lengths to get good sushi. And if the people don't like sushi, that's okay. That's not, doesn't have to be. So, and I think that's more true in a public show than it is a corporate event. Again, I wouldn't. For me, I just don't. With corporate gigs, I just go. I try to be funny, make them laugh, do some amazing stuff, and go home. But
yeah. No, I get it. I get it. So let's change the subject real quick. How about Steve Martin? The whole special area for Steve Martin show. I'm just scrolling through. I've heard of this pre-meeting you, and I don't know how I know about it or where I found out about it. Yeah. But he saves a spot in his show, every show, for Steve Martin. It's got a picture of him, a plaque, maybe even a candle lit for Steve Martin.
It's a plunger with a cut out of his face and his name reserved for Steve. So that started when I first started the show. I thought it would be fun to invite a DC celebrity. And I was going through like politicians at the time, and there was this new upstart politician that I didn't know anything about. But she had just given this really empowered speech that was very viral. And I'm like, she's young. She used to be a bartender. She would come and AOC. I had no idea that she was going to be a lightning rod. I wouldn't have picked her for that reason, honestly. But so for about 2 or 3 years, I invited her to every show, reserved for AOC, and I tag her afterwards with people sad that she didn't make it. I ended up stopping using her because I heard her on an interview talk about how she gets like death threats every day. She can't even walk her own dog. And I was like, you know what? She doesn't know that I'm harmless, that this is not.
Right.
Of course, she knows I'm trying to troll to get her out for. So I was like, okay. So I switched it to Steve Martin, and I did him for a year. And the best thing, Teller came to my show once, and at the beginning of the show, I took the picture with Teller looking sad, and Teller goes, "That's really funny. Can you text that to me? I want to send that to Steve." Like, oh my God, I was having every emotion in the world. I was like, oh God. So he texted Steve, or he emailed Steve before the show, and after the show, he showed me the email that Steve sent him back, which was like, "That's hilarious. I should really show up someday, but I never will." Which great. So I did it with Steve, and then if you look more recently, my goal is now to switch it every year. So I had this very sad. Steve didn't come to the last show in December, and my new target is Jason Sudeikis, Ted Lasso.
So is there a routine involved, or is that just a bit in the corner?
It's a bit in the corner, and people love it. People will come, not every show, but often enough, they'll be like, "Hey, can I take a picture with Steve?" Like they want to be, people seem to like the stupid joke.
But you don't mention it during the show or anything?
Don't. I probably should. But it's sitting there, and as people walk in, they usually do a double take, especially with Steve Martin. They'd be walking. Is Steve actually coming tonight? Yeah, no. And then I explain it. Oh, that's really too bad because I would love to meet him. Yeah, me too. And then we take the photo and then they usually, it's done it's the dumbest marketing idea I've ever had, but it is the one that has been the most successful in terms of people liking it.
So another thing, I want to tell you the other side of the story. Penn and Teller invited us to their show in the MGM up in Maryland. And we're sitting there, and this other couple of guys, 2 dudes sat beside us. They're not a couple, but it's a couple of dudes.
Yeah.
And they were magicians, and they knew you. They were really good friends with you. And maybe one of them got the call for Teller to come see your show. You know the 2 guys I'm talking about?
Yeah, it was Timothy, and I'm guessing Jeff Eline. I'm trying to remember who came with him, but Timothy Carver is definitely the guy who he's the one who's friends with Teller. And when Teller flew in, he goes, "Hey, you should come see my buddy Brian's show." And,
okay, yes. So they were just, "Teller came to see his show tonight. You got it. It's great." And they were just over the moon talking about how great this was. And then it was either you or one of the other guys from Ring 50 talking about how you got freaked out that Teller was going to be there and how you changed the show. Was that you telling me that?
That was me. Oh yeah, that was me.
Yeah, I totally get it.
So when I got Timothy sent me that text early in the day, and I'm like, "Oh, that's not going to happen." And then he texted me back. He goes, "Oh, he's not going to come. He's really tired. He's going to go see Oppenheimer and go to bed early tonight." I go, "Great. I don't have to worry about it." So an hour before the show starts, so Timothy got the text. He was on the subway. On the subway, you don't get good reception, but every once in a while you get like a burst. So we got a burst at one point. It was Teller going, "I changed my mind. Glenn and I are coming to the show." And so he's trying to text me, but he can't because he's on the metro. So every time the door would open, he'd stand out trying to find like hitting send, send, send. So finally, about an hour before the show started, people are already trickling in. It was a very busy. Teller came on the busiest show I've had since the pandemic. It was just pure luck. And so I had people already coming in, and I get the text, he's coming, he's going to be there in 30 minutes. And I went, oh my God, I have 2 new routines that I was going to work on tonight. And I'm not doing new routines. I'm just not, that's just not going to happen. So I took a bunch of stuff off the stage. I changed my music order. I put the stuff that I'd done 100 times, a million times in the show that I didn't have to, and I could not. So Teller gets there, and Teller and Glenn are so nice and so like down to earth. And we're walking up, and he says, where do you want me to sit? I go, wherever you want. I get some tables, because in the back behind our theater seating, we've got these little cocktail tables with candles and stuff for couples that usually will sit there. And I said, if you want some more privacy, you can sit back there. And I'm thinking he's a celebrity. He may not want to be in the middle. And he goes, well, where do you want me? I said, I want you to enjoy the show because I think I'd enjoy it closer up. And he sits dead front. And I cannot look at him in the show. I'm talking, I go up and over because I can't handle it. It's too much. And I'm just hoping that because if he's not enjoying the show, the show's gonna get worse. Like for sure. Like I'm not gonna process that well in the moment. So and he was great. He seemed to really like the show. He said the nicest things. After the show, he goes, yeah, what's your Twitter handle? And he texted me. He's like, hey, I just posted something. If you want me to make any edits, let me know. Like, how nice is that? I wanted to say to him, can you add, I'm seriously considering having a different partner, but I figured I wouldn't push it, just let him say nice things. But he couldn't have been nice.
Penn's so gruff, and Teller doesn't get a chance to talk. People have an opinion that they must be something that they're not. They are the best guys, man. Right. They're just so down to earth, so amazing.
Yeah, my limited interaction with Penn, he was so kind to me and so nice and gentle, just as a person. Not at all kind of he's also imposing. I mean, he's tall. Really tall. Teller's not short. I always assumed Teller was short.
Teller's taller than I am.
Yeah, Teller's Teller's a normal height, and Penn is just a giant. So, yeah, Penn was nice to me. And then the getting to hang out with Teller after the show he probably stuck around for 30, 40 minutes, and he liked the skeptical angle of the show. Obviously, it wasn't written for him, but it might as well have been. It's right down there. So that was probably my favorite show of all time. Is him there, the emotional roller coaster, and at the end, I'm standing by the door shaking hands as people are leaving, and in my head, I go, I know he's tired. I know he flew in this morning. He might just go home, and I'm just gonna thank my lucky stars he came. But if he really liked the show, he'll stick around. And so I'm out there like, oh, no Teller, no Teller, no Teller, no Teller, and he's stuck in there. And of course, the magicians who were there in the room stuck in there too, and we hung out for a little while, and it was great. So.
That's wow. Awesome. Can all of you guys leave? I want to hang out with Teller myself.
Yeah. I was okay. You know what? I wasn't going to complain. It was fun. It was great.
No, it's awesome. You just want more. You just want, it's that kid in you.
Yeah. Well, Teller's not allowed to my show anymore. He really liked it, and I'm happy with that. Let's just leave it there. I don't want to change his mind. He's banned from my show.
So his name won't be on that plaque.
No. Their name obviously I would have loved to, if I had any thought that they would ever come to my show, which I think I'm more likely to have Steve Martin. Steve Martin goes to the Magic Castle. I know he went to Aussie's show. Like, he goes to magic shows. So there was a non-0% chance that he would come. Right. And Jason Sudeikis also is a magician. Non-0% chance he shows up.
He was on a David Blaine special.
He was. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a magic fan. He goes to all the shows. He went to Mario's show, which is with his family, which is awesome. So we'll see. I doubt he's going to come, but it doesn't really matter. If they don't come, that's also fine. It's mostly fun to just chase after them. But
so tell everybody so the Good Liar is at a couple hotels now.
It's at 2, but mostly it's at the Capitol Hilton. And if it's not at the Capitol Hilton, it's at the Hotel Washington, the W. They're both within a block of the White House on either side. So
and that's BrianCurryMagic.com. They can get tickets for those.
agoodliar.com.
agoodliar.com. I need to know that. So what is the audience sizes? What is the difference if they say, hey, ballroom D today? Is there a difference? And how do you sell that 3 months out?
So it's tough. So truthfully, a lot of my tickets sell in the last 2 to 3 weeks. So I'm not too worried about it until about 2 or 3 weeks. And then I say, what room do you think I'm going to be in? And that rarely changes. Now, I'd say last year, maybe twice, the Capitol Hilton put me in their largest meeting rooms rather than the ballroom, which means I can comfortably sell 60, 70 seats without it being awkward. I mean, in terms of visibility. The ballrooms, I've sold 120, 130 is the most I've gotten in there. I'm happy around 70, 80 is a really good, everyone can see. It doesn't feel, the chairs aren't right next to each other. You got a little bit of breathing room. I can fill the room nicely. That's a great spot for me. And in January and February, which is my busy season, I do 5 and 8 o'clock shows, which is great, because the pain is the setup and the breakdown.
You're busier in January, February. What's the deal with that?
This is only true in DC. I don't want people in different areas taking this advice and it being wrong, but in DC at least, people want to get out of the house. They're tired of being indoors over Christmas. Also, people buy a lot of tickets over the holidays as gifts. A week or two before Christmas, it's a pretty steady stream of ticket sales. So I think for those reasons, I don't have any science to back up the first thing, but I know that every year my January, February are my best. And then my slow season is the summer. Like when you talk about all the shows in the summer, I've not tapped into the tourism market the way that I would like to. The problem with selling a show in DC is that I'm not competing against other magic shows. I'm competing against the White House. I'm competing against Ford's Theater. I'm competing, people, when they're talking about things to do in DC, I'm not going to come on the first 10 pages on Google.
But
you can't.
But like vacation, I like to go to the beach. I like to hang out, go to dinner, and then I want to see a show. Yep. You go to the museums, you go to the you go to all that, but now it's time to see a show. Come to see us.
I agree, and I haven't figured out how to get the word out on that.
Do you have a publicist?
No, I really should.
I need to get you in touch with my publicist to figure out some stuff. I'm not even kidding. Just to get art written and to get more word of mouth out about it and to get you on those tourism websites. I mean, that's what you need.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm sure you're right, and I would love to take any advice you or your person has. I do a thing called the Festival of Magic every year, which it's called the DC Festival of Magic.
Okay.
And I promise this is relevant to what we're talking about. But basically, over the pandemic, Capitol Hilton called me, and they're like, "Hey, we're struggling. This one weekend, Labor Day weekend, is always our slowest weekend. If we gave you free rooms for the weekend, how could we get people in the hotel?" And so they said, maybe you do a magic show with some of your friends. I'm like, but then they only come once. So I do a whole weekend of 5 different performances. Guys come and do their whole hour-long show. And it's become quite successful. And every year, like this past summer, we had Stephen Bargatze, who was just bonkers. I don't know if you know Stephen, one of the funniest humans I've ever seen. The year before, we had Bob Sheets, and we've had a lot of great guys, and we've got some great guys coming up this summer. But anyway, the reason I bring this up is because the Hilton team, the PR team, gets involved for that, and all of a sudden I'm on every list. Like people are like, it was on the elevator at my condo building, things to do over Labor Day weekend, and you were right there. You were number 4. I was like, I don't understand how the Hilton does it, but I think when Brian Curry, who's nobody, puts out a press release, people don't really open it. Whereas if Capitol Hilton does it, it comes with a certain gravitas. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but if Brian Curry's publicist put out a press release, they open it.
Absolutely right. I will admit, this is one of my areas of weakness is PR.
I mean, he's got a publicist. He must be somebody.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, seriously, that's what they think. But it's funny that, you really took me aback when you said January, February was busy for you because Piff the Magic Dragon goes on tour during February. Vegas is closed around Valentine's Day. It's just, there's nothing to do. It's dead. Wow. Yeah.
Well, it just depends on where you are, Yeah. I've listened to all these great podcasts of people who are on the beach who do their show and the techniques that they use to book, and and I'm sure what they're telling, it works for them. it hasn't worked in DC. I remember Mark and I used to drive around with like bags of chocolates and things to like go to all the concierges and give them the updated list of upcoming shows. And we gave them special codes so we could track it. And I think we sold maybe 4 tickets ever. And we would just spend hours and hours and hours of schmoozing and networking. And when people go, what do you want to do? Hey, what's there to do in DC? They go, okay, well, have you seen the White House? Have you seen the monument? I mean, they don't usually think, the magic show. So
I know people that have their own theaters. They invite the waiters and waitresses from their favorite restaurants, so if they're going to go to that town, they do that. Then that's probably the beach people you're talking about that do stuff like that, so that they're talking about it during dinner. Yeah,
I absolutely give away free tickets freely. If I ever meet anyone who I think might maybe hire me, if I can ever get them to the show, I usually book the gig, right? And if they don't book the gig, that's fine. I had some seat fillers, which is also fine. But yeah, I've just been lucky. So my whole marketing thing and I've told this to other guys, but nobody seems to want to do it because they only come to my show once. I have this amazing list. I have a very good list, and my open rate is really excellent. However, people aren't going to come to see my show over and over. I mean, some people do, but for the most part, it's, oh, we've seen that show. What's next? So I decided I want to be the guy who helps them find all the great shows in DC. So every month I give out an email. Usually I feature somebody. Mind Games is coming in. Vinny DePonto's doing a show here in DC. So he was the highlight of my last email. Here's a link if there's any discounts. Here's a list of events in DC. And I get people who regularly will like email me, hey, we went to see so-and-so show. It was fabulous. Thanks. We love your email. So, and because of that, even though that doesn't directly make me money, because of that, I get a lot more word of mouth. I get a lot of, hey, my sister loves you. She gets your emails. She said I had to come see your show.
Nice.
That kind of thing. So, and because it's email, it's basically free, So,
right. That's awesome.
We started a newsletter in 2008, and it's like, well, we don't have enough stuff to put in a newsletter. I do a 5 to 8 page newsletter every month since 2008. And it just, but I mean, it's just, all right. So we have a television show. We have a podcast. We have the magic shows. We have, he's also a health coach now.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it goes.
Look at the shows we've done in the past month. Here's some highlights.
Yeah.
But it keeps you in the minds of everybody because everybody's already like, are you still doing, how many times a month do you get it? Are you still doing that magic thing? Like, we've been doing it for years. Yes, we're still doing that magic thing. So it keeps you in their minds are like, oh yeah, look at that. He really is still doing that magic thing.
But every month I send out a newsletter. You get instant replies to that newsletter to book a show.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's awesome. Newsletters are the best. Yeah.
I send out one for school shows, one for the public show every month. But luckily, they're rarely about me. They're always about things that I think give value to them. I forget that, I'm going to say it wrong, but it was like Jab, Jab, Uppercut is a book by Gary Vaynerchuk, the famous marketing guy. And the idea is you give value, and then when you want something, you're clear as day. You don't do the whole like, oh, this is good for you. You should buy my thing. Because, you're like, hey guys, do you know anyone who needs a corporate gig? Blah, blah, blah. And you're clear. And because you've garnered enough goodwill from all these other emails, they're willing to read it and possibly take action. Whereas if every month, and I know a lot of guys who do this, who have public shows, every month it's, hey, come to our show. Hey guys, come to our show. Here's a photo of us with a different audience member. Come to our show. And it's just the same drum. And I don't know this for a fact, but I imagine that every month their unsubscribe rate is bonkers, right? I mean, you can only hear that email so many times if you're like, yeah, okay.
Right. Yeah.
Well, you're building a relationship instead of just spamming them with what you have. So you're giving them some fun things to look
we're
at.
not telling them other shows to go to. I mean,
no.
It would be weird for me to say, hey, Natalie and I watched a movie last week and we really recommend you renting this movie. But I see you're recommending the other things. That makes sense.
That's more.
But there ought to be a call to action. Don't you change up your show? What about next year? Is it going to be the same show?
Probably. I'm a slow mover. I went to this great lecture by Matt King when I was a kid It was one of the desert seminar things, and he was the speaker. And he said this really wonderful thing. He said, "I don't know that much magic. I've been doing the same act since I was 18. Every month I get 1 or 2 new jokes, but that's 24 new jokes a year. That times 10, like it really builds up. I'm not as smart and as clever as guys like Michael Weber who can put out, you know, 50 amazing new things every year. I'm not that clever. I'm the guy who just chases one thing and makes it good. I did that for the Magic Duel, and that worked out well for me. I think I've got at least another year or two to work on this show, and then I'll probably work on my next show.
Wow. So we had resorts, and I didn't understand how timeshare worked. I thought that 80% of my audience every year were return customers.
Yeah.
It's the opposite. They buy timeshare so they can go other places.
Mm-hmm.
So every year we put in 80% new show. My Dove opening might be the same, but after that, it's a whole new show.
Right.
So I have all this material on accident that we can pick and choose from to make new shows.
Sure.
And, since the pandemic, we've put in 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5 new things, but it's not an entire new show anymore.
We'll rotate things when we get sick of something.
Yeah.
Like, we're done with that one. We're sick of doing that one. Let's what can we replace it with?
Well, we had, Larry Littman from up in DC.
Sure do.
Larry came to our show and literally saw us do this 10 minutes before the show. All right, what are we doing? Give me a set list, because we have so much material.
Yeah.
Just write it down. I'll do it. But we got to pick and pull. And we drive with an RV pulling a trailer. Mm-hmm. So we have all this material. If I need something that's not here, I'll go out and get it. So that's we wing it. So every show kind of is different. So
it sounds bad that we wing it, but it's all stuff that we have rehearsed and know how to do. It's not like it's like something brand new.
Yeah.
I try to tell people when I say that, she gets worried, but it's like a singer just revamping their set list of their show. You know, it's not the same show every night they go see them.
Right.
Sometimes they do this first. Sometimes they've done something off an old hit that hasn't been performed in 3 years. Yeah.
Totally.
So are your kids interested in magic at all? How old are your kids? And do they have
any
at all?
And they're 4, almost 5 and 8. And not really. I mean, they like that I do magic shows at their school, and that's about it. I think what I made the mistake when they were a kid, I used magic to get stuff away from them. Like they'd be trying to eat my Sharpie and I go, "Oh, look, it's gone. Ha, sorry." And so they mostly just got irritated by magic. Like, "Daddy, bring it back," So I'm trying not, I feel if I push them, they're going to do something terrible, like being an accountant or something to rebel. So I'm trying to let them figure out what it is that makes them happy. But I would be thrilled if they decide that they want to do magic as they get older, but not really, not yet. No real interest. How about yours?
No. I buy magic collections. I have a magic website where I sell magic now, as well as everything else I do. It keeps me in the loop. When I did restaurants, I would learn new tricks every week because I had those repeat customers. Yep. Now that I have that, I don't know the new stuff. And I like to play with props, and it makes me think creatively to come up with new material. Yeah. But sometimes you end up with 12 things. I don't need 12 of it. 3 might be enough, but not 12. So that's why I started that. But when I buy a new collection, my daughter's like, "Great, honey. You
more magic you don't need."
Right,
He's like,
great,
"Why would
great,
we
Dad.
need it? We do this for a living. It's what pays the bills, honey."
Mm-hmm.
But she is.
I told her when I'm dead, it's all hers. And that doesn't help her.
She's going to keep you alive.
She goes, "Great."
Yeah, she'll keep me on life support.
That's right.
No, but she does help out in the show and do little bits. Nothing too crazy.
How old is she?
Always told her she's 12. She just turned 12.
Oh, and you can get her to be on your stage at 12? Oh,
yeah.
Good for you.
Well, we've told her, that if she ever, because we take the whole family on the road. She doesn't have a choice. She's coming with us. So you're either in the show with a smile on your face, or if you really start hating it and you come out looking grumpy, you're out. You're not going to be in the show. We don't want grumpy kids, but you're still backstage.
Right.
You might as well make the best of it and smile on stage, and
Right.
But anyway, but she does I think she enjoys being on stage because she just started a musical theater class, so she wants to do that kind of thing, you know. But magic just isn't her.
She's doing stuff that requires no skill. She's doing abracadabra while we're doing magic.
Exactly.
We have a
She's not into practicing. So we just give her easy stuff.
Yeah.
So, you know.
What is it called? I'm blanking on the name of it. It's a Quran medallion.
Oh, yeah?
I do everything. She made the prediction. She opens up the prediction and shows it.
Yeah.
As she hands it to me, the magic happens.
Gets
She
all
gets
the
credit.
She gets all the credit, and she stands there, and I brought this from home, Dad.
That's great. That's
But she doesn't do anything.
Right.
So that's what kills me. I want her to step up and do more, but I also don't want to push her where she hates it.
Right.
400 shows a year is a lot. We also have a live-in babysitter.
Because we have 3-year-old twin boys.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so we have the babysitter watch the boys during the show.
Some venues, they just sit in the RV watching television the entire show.
Yeah.
And then Natalie will call them as we're at the last trick, and she'll put their jackets on them and run them in, rip their jackets off. They run out. They give us a hug. They take a bow. They run off stage to the babysitter. They go back in the RV and turn it back on.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
it.
all they can do. They are rambunctious 3-year-olds. Boys are so different from girls. And it's just they're not there yet to even do little something or another.
My little girl was on stage at 2.5. Our little boys are 3, and there's no way.
No doing it. No.
Yeah.
So
That's good for you. That's dangerous. I think of my 4-year-old. He couldn't sit. He couldn't sit and watch the same show every day. I know it. I mean, he would just be.
That's why we have the babysitter, because they're not going to watch the show. No.
Wow, that's awesome.
Our daughter did. She would sit and watch our show when she was that little. She would sit. It's different with girls, and then with them, there's also 2 of them, so they feed off of each other. So
well, he's up running around. I was gonna be good, but now I'm gonna run.
Right, exactly. Doing it, why can't I? So,
I think the first time my daughter came to see my show, I think she was 3.5 or so. And after the show ends and everyone's applauding and people are coming up and talking to me, she comes running up to me and tells me, ask me to pick her up. And she looks out at the other kids and goes, "My daddy." So it was such a great moment. She'll hate me telling that story forever, but I loved it.
That's okay. You get to. You're her dad. You're allowed to her a little bit every once in a while.
I wrote a children's book years ago, and we were doing a book signing on the downtown mall in Charlottesville.
Mm-hmm.
And my little girl was just holding on to a pole and just rocking around it. And what was she saying?
She said, "Show's about to start," and she was just about to start.
I was doing close-up magic to try to get people over so I could pitch the book signing in front of the bookstore. We have that on video.
Yes.
And she was 2.5, 3 years old. It was amazing. We love it.
So cute.
Couldn't get her to do that today if I paid her at 12 years old.
Absolutely not.
All right. So we have just a couple minutes left. agoodliar.com, magic.com. What is your favorite thing you have in your show right now?
Oh,
you
man.
Have one piece. You have one piece to choose that's your baby.
Oh, it's whatever I'm working on, truthfully. I really like my ending, but I have a Jenga bit. Oh, I don't want to tell because if anyone comes to the show, I have a great soulmate test. That's the one I'll say. It's very sweet, and at the end, I pull the rug out, and they realize how snarky I've been the entire time. It feels like this really nice moment between the couple, and at the end, I just smush it as they're walking back to their seat, in the best way, in my opinion. I mean, not in a mean way, but in a way where the audience go, "Oh, he actually is nope, he's still a jerk."
I love it.
Wow.
That's my current favorite routine, mostly because I've been working on it.
Yeah.
She wants to go see your show.
We'll have to make it a date night for us so come and see your show.
Right, and
hang out afterwards or something.
Absolutely, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Do you have time to go out to dinner afterwards?
No, I have to break down the show. So I bring the sound, the lighting, and everything. It is but you're welcome to grab some food and come on up while I'm breaking down because it takes a while. But I can't.
Do you have other musicians helping you? I felt like somebody from Ring 50 said they were your light guy. They were your.
Yeah, Michael Taggart is my guy. He's fabulous. He helps me get things done. But it's still, even with the 2 of us, it takes about, I don't know, maybe an hour, hour and a half to pack everything up and then load the car. And I can't leave the stuff in the room and just go for a couple hours and come back. I don't think the hotel would have locked me out by then.
Yeah, gotcha.
What about a storage room at the hotel? We just got back from Mohegan Sun. My buddy has a broom closet. Literally, he shows up does his show, packs it all up, and just goes home just like this.
I asked them about that probably 4 years ago, and they said no at the time. But now that I have a good relationship with them and I'm running this festival for them and stuff, I should ask again. So the answer was no at first, but
Yeah.
maybe I've ingratiated myself enough that they'll find me a corner. I would be so happy if they just gave me a corner where I could leave stuff.
If you could just get some kind of locker,
Yeah.
to
Just
put
an
your stuff.
88
That
case.
way,
Yeah.
really, you can get it, lights and everything in an ATA
Oh.
case.
Well, I mean, I have more than one. Yeah. So my light, I bring, like a T stand that breaks down, somewhat. Yeah, I can get the whole show in on one of their carts from the hotel,
Okay.
just barely. But with but it's tough. So
There's got to be somewhere down in the basement. Just let me put it there.
I don't care. A room full of rats doesn't matter. Just let me find a place.
There's no rats at our hotel, sir. There's no rats at our hotel. That was a joke.
That's what I mean. But yeah, any place I would be thrilled if I could get that. That to me would make my load in, load out 1,000,000 times more doable.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna definitely check out your schedule and come see you. We want to go see it. We're doing date nights now. We have the live-in babysitter. We pay her to take care of the kids, and it's just a 3-hour drive for us. That's nothing. We're used to doing it.
It is a long drive.
Here, Richmond. No, it's fine. It's fine. It'd be worth it. Teller loved it. We're gonna love it. It'll be great.
No pressure.
BrianCurryMagic.com, agoodliar.com. If you're in the DC area, look this dude up. He's an awesome guy. I think that wraps up everything except for we'll see you next week.
All right. Bye, guys.
Check us out online at wesisley.com and patreon.com/Wes_Iseli for behind-the-scenes videos, blooper videos, never-before-seen footage, discounts on merchandise, magic trick tutorials, and more. That's Wes Iseli, spelled WESISELI.